once we have a guideline, there is the question to appraise it, to critically review and tell whether this guideline is appropriate or not. For this purpose, for the evaluation, for the purpose of guideline evaluation, we have different tools, namely the grade tool and the agree instrument. The grade tool and the agree instrument. The grade tool has these the categories shown in this picture here. This is from one of our exercises in our study. So in this grade tool, you look to the different domains, namely risk of bias, indirectness, inconsistency, imprecision, and other considerations to come up with a conclusion on accuracy, on whether the guideline has a grade of recommendation. Is it low, very low, or moderate or high? In a table, I can show you in more detail what these very low, low, moderate, and high mean. So in the previous slide, you have seen which criteria are used to come on a conclusion of the validity of the recommendation using the grade tool. And here you see what the different levels mean. If it is a very low, that means this is just an expert opinion and no direct research evidence. And if it is very high, the quality of evidence very high, that means it is more trustable guideline. The agree instrument, agree tool, on the other hand, is also very commonly used to grade, to categorize or evaluate guidelines. It assesses the methodological rigor and transparency of development. So it's not assessing the validity of recommendations. There we have to be careful. Using the agree instrument, we can only check whether the methodology when developing or writing a guideline was appropriate or not. Here, a screenshot from the agree checklist. You can find this and many other guidelines on reporting in this web page, equator-network.org. And you see it has starting with the domain, scope, and purpose. And under this scope and purpose, we have the objectives, questions, population, and which criteria should be included when writing the objectives of a guideline, or writing the questions of a guideline, or defining the population of the guideline. So here you have the checklists. By using this agree instrument, you can score a guideline. I will not expect you to do this, but you should be aware to know that there exists, this kind of instrument exists, and in need we may refer to these instruments to appraise our guidelines. So as I said, there are different domains, namely totally 6 domains, and under these domains there are 23 items. And this agree instrument suggests that each item is rated on a 7-point scale from 1 to 7. The 6 domains here are depicted here: scope and purpose, stakeholder development, rigor of development, clarity of presentation, applicability, and editorial independence. I will explain a little bit more in a second what they mean. Furthermore, beyond that, we have 2 global rating items. Beyond these 6 domains, we have the quality of guideline, and recommend guideline for use in practice. So these are also checked and graded using the ECRI instrument. Okay, now these different domains. Under the domain scope and purpose, we have 3 items: overall aim, specific health questions, target population. Under stakeholder involvement, inclusion of appropriate stakeholders, views of intended users, rigor of development, gathering, synthesis of evidence, methods used to develop recommendations and update them. So you see there are different numbers of items under each domain, and they sum up to 23 at the end. Clarity of presentation, we have the format, structure, and language used. And under applicability, it is checked whether implications, barriers, facilitators to implementation are correct or not. And under editorial independence, transparency of bias or conflict of interests are addressed.